Good afternoon. As it is 5:30 p.m., I will call this City Council meeting of January 7th, 2025 to order and wish you all a Happy New Year. We acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people and pay our respect to those past and present. Normally, we would be doing the invocation next, but the city clerk received no responses to our requests for invocations for this evening's meeting and regular council meetings throughout the year. Requests were sent to approximately 25 spiritual and/or religious groups in the greater Oak Harbor area for which contact information could be found, including those that have responded and provided invocations previously. No responses were received. This may be a topic for council consideration at a future date as to whether the council wishes to continue to include an invocation as part of the regular council meetings. For this evening, we will move forward to the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd please stand. Brian, if you'll lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. This will be both a physical meeting and a virtual meeting. Some members of city staff or consultants may be participating via teleconference. Today's meeting may be viewed on YouTube, Facebook, and following the meeting on cable channel 10 HD 1090. I believe we're all present and accounted for either virtually or physically, correct? Okay.
That's correct, Mayor. Council members Wiesner and Wickenstein are participating remotely.
Great. So there's no need for a roll call then. So we'll move on. Approval of agenda is the next item on the agenda. Are there any other suggested changes to the regular agenda? All right. If there are none, we are approved as presented, and we'll move forward to our presentations. Tonight we have two presentations. The first presentation that we have tonight is our Oak Harbor Public Schools Superintendent, Michelle Custabula.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our topic, the levy. So I think I can remote this, yes? Okay. And I look over here. This is fun. Okay, I got it now. So I was here maybe a month ago or two, I can't remember. It was a while ago, and I was here to talk about the amazing work this community did pulling together to help us with our business plan of Oak Harbor Public Schools, which is our strategic plan. I shared with you the priorities of the community based on community input and values, as well as starting with our students and ending with our students what their priorities were and our accountability to the students of Oak Harbor. So we had 4 pillars of success to our business plan, and I'm sure the city also is very aware of a business plan. It's what holds you accountable. So in our pillars of the community, our students and community said, if we work together, we can be better. So better together with alignment of One Oak Harbor. We also heard from our community safety was a priority, and how do we continue to work together to ensure safety, physical safety, as well as emotional safety and support for our students of Oak Harbor. Academic excellence was very important, not only to our students, but our parents and our business owners in the community. And our last one was inclusion, pride, and diversity, which means no matter where students come from or where they go and come back to us again, everyone is welcome in Oak Harbor Public Schools. And we wanted to make sure we were accountable to those goals. So that brings us to our levy. So this levy is not a new levy. Our current levy expires, so this is just replacing the existing levy. And I want to talk a little bit about how our strategic plan and levy coincide together. So we heard from our community about their values, and our community gets to support the values of Oak Harbor Public Schools. So when I look at our funding model, I thought it was important to share with you how we are funded in Oak Harbor Public Schools. So our state of Washington gives us 76% of our overall budget, and the rest of it are 2 different ways in which we fund our schools to do the work that we do for students. We receive 11% in federal funding. Many of that comes in impact aid in lieu of property taxes that we collect. We get a portion of that back through impact aid. And then 12% of our operating budget is our local support, our local levy. So that gives you an idea when I'm talking tonight what that 12% is all about. So thinking about our community priorities and values, I wanted to give you a graph of what we've been spending our money on, this current levy, the past couple years. And one of the things is our inclusion and pride and welcoming, safe environment for all of our students. So Oak Harbor is unique. Our community told us the importance of what we do to support our students, and in particular, special education services. So our levies help provide special education services for our students. And we do a pretty dang good job here in Oak Harbor of supporting all of our students, and in particular, our work around special education. Now, the state funds us based on 16% of our students receiving IEP services. We actually have a higher percent. Does anybody know why our percent is 23%? Higher than the state? We have a partnership with NAS Woodby. We have an exceptional family base. So a lot of our families stay here in Oak Harbor while their spouses get deployed in order to stay in one spot to get the care that they need. So we have a higher percent than most school districts in the state of Washington. And we are proud about that because the support that we give our students is incredible. And that takes local support to make that work happen. We also receive health and safety. So on the top graph here, you see when I talk about health and safety, our nurses and mental health. Many of our students come to us, medically fragile students, and we do a really good job of ensuring through local support that we have nurses in every building to ensure that our students have full care services. We also have deans of students. We had during COVID, bringing our kids back was very difficult across the country, not just the state of Washington and not just Oak Harbor Public Schools. And we found by supporting our students with deans of students, it's really helped our principals to be able to provide support in the classroom with instruction, our instructional work, remember academic excellence. But also, we really try to keep our kids in school. We want them to be successful, and kids don't always have good days. As adults, we don't always have good days. So our deans of our students really help us with that. The state does not provide funding for deans of students. They give us one for the entire district. The rest comes from local levy support. So you can see our little people here. The dark blue is what the state funds. I also want to thank the city, the mayor, and chief, where's our chief? Right here, look at this. We last year did some budget cuts and reductions in our district as well as the year before. And one of the things we considered, we loved the value of having the partnership with the city police. And we knew the value of that for our students as well, to have a safe person that they can confide in or share information with. And that partnership is really critical to Oak Harbor Public Schools. The state does not give us SRO funding. So last year we went to the city, went to Chief Slowick, and we said, could you help us with providing support for the SRO, our school resource officers? So we split that in half. The state does not provide any funding for that. And we love our SRO. Did I say that loud enough? We love our SRO. He's amazing. I also want to point to you how much money the state gives us for physical structural safety, locking doors, security, cameras, fencing, which is zero, and that is not an error, by the way. The state actually does not call out in a line item any money for safety. So we rely on local support to help provide safety. I know many of our military families go all across the country and out of the country, and they see how different school systems run. We do not have infrastructure without a bond to provide entryways that are safe and locking and visibility to the main office. So we have to provide different ways to do that, and we do that through locking door systems and our technology to support that. That comes from local levy support. We also talked a little bit about technology, but I want to dive in a little bit further, and I'm going to lean on our city council members and engage with you. How many of you remember being in school where you carried textbooks? Do you remember those things? They were textbooks, and you opened up the cover, and what did you see on the cover? Probably your dad's name, your great uncle's name, right? We no longer have textbooks that we carry in our backpacks. Our kids have these things called devices, and this takes money to support the devices, where on the device, everything is at their fingertips. So families can engage in their child's learning by looking at the curriculum, the teacher's classroom, videos, communication back and forth with the teacher and the parent. All of that is through our device, and a lot of our digital platforms now, our textbooks in lieu are now digitally created, which also allows us to adapt when new standards come out. We can adapt that because it's digital software instead of this hard textbook that you had to carry around for 40 years, which is a little outdated. The other thing I want to talk about is how much is this levy? So a couple years ago, we went out for the existing levy and we asked for $228 per thousand to our local community. We felt that was the price of what we needed to maintain services. We're doing the same thing with this levy. We're still asking for $228. More people have moved in, so the price of that actually is a little bit more to the district, but we also have this thing happening called inflation. It's probably not new to you. And so when we think about how much that costs, I want to do a little scenario. You guys want to play a little game? All right. This is a teaching university, right? So before we begin, levies are for learning. Bonds are for We're talking about a levy. So we're not talking about a bond, easily confused by the community. This is a levy. It needs a simple majority, not a supermajority, to pass. Bonds need a supermajority. So here's the game that we're going to play. So we're going to pretend that our levy is $1,000. And we have the 4 of you here. Sabrina, you're in the neighborhood. So we have 4 of you in the neighborhood. And your homes are valued at $500,000. So if we divide that out, how much are you paying? $250. Did you have Dwight Lundstrom for math? Okay. Anyway, don't worry, Chief. We can go again. Ready? So what happens is, now if your home value increases, how much is the school collecting? We're still collecting $1,000. So a levy is locally controlled and approved by voters. We cannot change how much we ask our local voters once that levy gets approved, right? That's the set amount. So for example, in this particular year, $1,000, your homes have increased, but the amount that we collect stays the same. Now we're going to play a new game. So the mayor has decided he's building a house, and he's joining you guys in the neighborhood. I know, watch out. Your boss is living right next door to you. So you have $1,000 still. The school is collecting $1,000. You have Mayor Wright, who has just built a house in your neighborhood. So now your homes are valued at $575. How much more is the school collecting? We're not. We keep it the same. Okay? So in that collection year, the voters approved an amount. We can't get more. We get only what the voters approved. And I wanted to share that with you because it's extremely important when we think about your tax statement. So if you receive your tax statement, there's 2 taxes on there. Very confusing. The first tax is School District 201. Oak Harbor Public Schools is School District 201. That is locally owned, locally controlled. Remember at the beginning when I talked about our budget, 12% of that is local levy. Our local community, their priority values allows us to do the work that we do for kids of Oak Harbor Public Schools in Oak Harbor community. The second tax that you have is a school tax that the state owns and controls, does not need your approval, does not need a majority, and they can set the rate and collect more. We can't. District 201, once the voters approve, that's the amount we collect. I also want to talk about the importance of this levy from my experience as a student. Not here in Oak Harbor, obviously in New York, far away, but I am here today as the superintendent of Oak Harbor Public Schools because I had the ability to participate in fine arts, clubs, activities, and sports. So think about that. How many of you in this audience participated in art, music, sports, clubs? We know as Oak Harbor Public Schools, it takes not just the teachers in our classroom, but our bus drivers, food services, and our community, our coaches and our mentors to support students to be successful. The levy covers all students to participate completely free in sports, clubs, activities, art, music. And I can also tell you in my former life, I was an art teacher, elementary art, high school art, middle school, probably not that good of a reading teacher as I was an art teacher, but I can tell you art was important. Oak Harbor is very unique. If you go off the island, not a lot of local people support full-time art teachers, full-time nurses in the buildings, full-time certificated librarians. We do in Oak Harbor, and that's what the levy supports. So I wanted to make sure you had the information. When you go out to make the vote, I can't tell you how to vote, but I can tell you what the money is spent for, and it's locally controlled and local priorities based on our strategic plan for a community of One Oak Harbor to raise the level of experience and opportunity for all of our students. So thank you so much for allowing me to present.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Our second presentation this evening is from the Oak Harbor Main Street Association, and here to present tonight is the new Executive Director, Cheryl Grahan.
Thank you for that. Can I cue up the slides? From the Oak Harbor Main Street Association, we would like to thank the city for your previous years of taking advantage of the tax incentive program Washington State has created to support the Main Street Associations. Also, thank you for allowing us to present tonight for this year's public utilities tax credit. Oh, wonderful, good. Downtowns play a crucial role in the economic, social, and cultural well-being of the area. It acts as the heart of the city, serving as a hub for commerce, community gatherings, and local identity. Oak Harbor Main Street is important to our town, but it isn't just important to our town. It just isn't important to Washington State. But the National Trust of Historic Preservation thought it important enough to create this program for all of the United States. Their pilot program created the best road map that can be used for all towns, no matter the population or the location. Hence, the 4-point approach. Oak Harbor's Main Street mission is to actively promote a vibrant, historic waterfront community, and we use the Main Street 4-point approach to achieve our mission. 3 of the 4 points are economic vitality, design, and promotion. We have implemented several programs that address those points, which you will see in the following that show that our downtown has been transformed. Our facade improvement grant program provides property owners a bit of relief and incentive to update their fix their exteriors. It was used to rehabilitate this historic brick building by repairing the cracks and the brick. Even as little as planters can make a big deal in the eyes of the passersby. Our recent move allowed us to start an incubator program. This is so great for startups because it provides a supportive environment and low risk to young businesses to thrive or reveal it might just not be for them without taking a huge hit to the pocketbook. Currently, we have Romans Rocks right there on the right in one of the spaces. I first met him and his mom as they were just starting out. They were a vendor at the 2024 Holland Happening. They have a great story. I would recommend everybody go down there and just listen to them. Now, right as Roman Rocks was moving in, Wild Ophelia's was moving out into their own brick and mortar store right down the road. This was our first incubator business, and they have graduated. Oak Harbor Main Street and the City of Oak Harbor worked together to create a pedestrian-friendly, lighted walkway connecting Pioneer Way to our waterfront, called Serendipity Lane. It's almost finished. We have a few details left to finish up. And then Pop-Up Plaza is also, the lighting project is another detail, making downtown a pretty and quaint place. Notice the banners too. It all paints a beautiful experience. Pop-Up Plaza is also an amazing transformation with the mural, the stage, and the pergolas. So now people can gather together with their dogs instead of their dogs just doing their duty. I don't know if you remember that. Main Street is hosting 30+ events throughout 2025, which gives locals and visitors to venture downtown more than 30 times. Hey, be sure to put on your calendar, January 25th is our winter stroll, and you will have great opportunity to warm up with hot drinks and treats at multiple shops. We also have an app for it. So this app is called the Locable app. You can take out your phones right now, like Chief Slowick-Storn, I can just tell, and download this app. It, hold on just a second. It shows where you can dine, you can sip, you can shop, and you can also see art. It talks about the events and the parking. We're still working on it just to fine tune all those details, but you can still download it and keep up to date on it. So the last point on the 4-point approach is most applicable to this this presentation. It's called Organization and Outreach section. This involves creating a strong foundation for sustainable revitalization effort, including cultivating partnerships, community involvement, and resources for the district. The partnering entity that makes the most profound impact to Main Streets is their local government. This alliance is felt throughout the community if there is unity. Again, I just want to thank you for partnering with us the past several years. I hope you are proud of the improvements to downtown. We can't do it without you, nor do we want to. We constantly nurture our community stakeholders because that is best for our community. I just want you two to see this slide. Okay. I'm just buttering people up here. Also, community involvement includes creating volunteer opportunities because it's important, because it fosters a sense of ownership, it strengthens social connection, and allows individuals to contribute their skills and time for the greater good. Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." The next two slides are snippets of our financial situation for 2024. Mainly, I just want to point out that we are about $35,000 over budget, and that is due to the tax incentive program was not taken advantage of because I believe businesses were just not confident in the economy, and I'm sure it was felt throughout all of the nonprofits. If you have any questions about any of these financials, please contact me. I'd love to talk with you about it. The city and Main Street have mutual goals. We want to foster a strong and diverse local economy with thriving businesses. We want to enhance the quality of life for residents and create a vibrant, welcoming community. We want to improve the aesthetics and functionality of the downtown area, and we want to promote Oak Harbor as a desirable tourist destination. So it's obvious we need to continue our partnership, and with that, I ask you to vote yes in keeping funds local, to taking advantage of what the state deems necessary with the Main Street Tax Incentive Program, and to pledging the same amount or more to your Main Street Association so we can continue serving our town and our community. I would like to leave you with this video that we commissioned. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having us.
When you think about what can we do, you come down to Pioneer.
We love the home. It's a really cool, small town feel. People here are great, and it's really historic, so it's really neat to kind of walk down and see all the cute shops.
You come to Pioneer to really check out what businesses are down here. There's the paint shop down the street. There's the candle bar here. You can find some activities to do. Walk down to the water, grab an ice cream cone, and come back and shop, have dinner, and this is the place to be.
All the businesses come together and help each other out. It's been amazing. Actually work so hard to make sure that all the business is taken care of for our community.
Hearing us. Main Street hears us when we give feedback, and they partner with us to try to make things better.
It means a lot to us as a storefront business to meet the needs of our community in so many different ways.
It's good. Seeing everybody come in, being able to get the right candies to the right kids at the end of the day and have that big smile when they walk out is the best feeling in the world.
Being here in downtown is very important, especially to my business, that I handmade everything here in my store. Main Street helped me and my business to showcase that to people.
We're kind of in the middle of the action, so there's a lot of festivals that go on down here, markets.
The events that they've kicked off, and the promotions, and the hosting of all these fun things draws people here. It gets them downtown.
So many more people. It's crazy when how many people are downtown when we're having these events. So many different reasons people come in. They're not just
obviously for the little treasures.
It's not all about the product. It's all about, the love that you provide to the community and the love that you receive from the community. Yeah, just come to downtown. I mean, it's not just my shop, but it's also some other great shops. It's really, it seems like every year it just gets better and better.
Thank you for your presentation, Cheryl. All right, we are going to move forward to citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on consent agenda items or subjects of interest not listed on the agenda at this time. Citizens will have the opportunity to comment on the remaining agenda items during the meeting as appropriate. Citizens can also visit our website prior to our meetings for methods to submit public comment or contact the city clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously or from a false address will be shared with the mayor and council, but will not be displayed. We received one new public comment since our last regular meeting. It is displayed here. Comments on public hearing items will be taken when those hearings are opened. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak to items not listed on the agenda or on the consent agenda?
Mayor, we have one person who signed up to speak, Mr. Jack Schwab.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm Jack Schwab. I live at 2057 West Beach Road. I'm here as the campaign manager for Citizens for Better Schools. Citizens for Better Schools is an independent organization here in Oak Harbor. Its sole mission is to advocate for Oak Harbor public schools. We appreciate you allowing Dr. Casabula to speak to you today and tell you about the levy, why it's important. North Whidbey is quite lucky to have in our Oak Harbor Public Schools a district that provides a wide range of really high quality programs for its students. There are extensive career and technical education programs for those who are going to go into the trades or other jobs straight out of high school. There are quite a few advanced placement courses and college and the high school courses for those who are headed to university. Some exceptional sports programs that you've been reading in the paper have done quite well of late. Some amazing music, arts, and drama programs. Many types of special education programs. I was actually quite surprised when I learned how many there are for the 23% of students in town who are of need, as well as support for the financially struggling. Personally, I moved here 5 years ago from Seattle, and I'm quite impressed with all that Oak Harbor Public Schools is able to provide with the limited funds it receives. It frankly far exceeds what we had in Seattle. As the funds that Oak Harbor Public Schools receives from the state and federal governments are not sufficient to fund these exceptional programs or even to fully fund the minimal programs that the schools are mandated to provide, it's kind of incumbent upon us as a community every 4 years to provide additional funding for our local schools. So without these local levy funds, our local schools would be significantly diminished and our local kids would suffer. So please, let's do everything in our power to maintain our excellent public schools. We would ask, if you'd be willing, we'd appreciate an endorsement by the City Council of the levy and encouragement of folks to vote yes on February 11th. If you would like, or anyone here would like buttons or stickers, I have those with me tonight. If anyone wants a yard sign, you can get those at Oak Harbor Motors or at the Chamber of Commerce. If anyone wants to volunteer or donate, you can go to our website, which is just simply citizensforbetterschools.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there anyone else with us this evening that didn't have an opportunity to sign up that would like to step forward and make public comment at this time? All right, hearing no one else who wishes to speak at this time, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to our consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Are there any objections or changes to the consent agenda as it was presented? I can't see the folks online, so.
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay. All right, so hearing none, I would entertain a motion to, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion to approve consent agenda as presented by Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Amaro. Seconded by Councilmember Amaro. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passed unanimously? Okay, great, thank you. I can't see those two, so. All right, we're going to move on to mayor's comments. We have quite a few, so I apologize up front. I have a lot to say tonight, apparently. NAS Whidbey Island is conducting drinking water sampling near the Area 6 landfill, Altfield, and outlying landing field, Coopville, during the month of January. This sampling is for certain substances which may be present in these drinking water wells due to past use and/or past disposal of materials on the base. The Navy is working in partnership with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 10, Washington State Department of Ecology, Washington State Department of Health, and Island County Public Health Department. The Navy has notified select property owners in the sampling areas that have been previously sampled by the Navy or to resample certain drinking water wells. The Navy mailed letters to property owners requesting permission to sample their drinking water wells. The Navy also mailed postcards to tenants of these properties to notify current residents that the property owner's permission to sample has been requested. This sampling is at no cost to the property owner or tenant. Property owners may schedule a drinking water well sampling appointment by calling and leaving a message at 1-844-WHI-PFAS, or that's 1-844-944-7327, or by emailing naswi.pfas@jacobs.com, which I believe all of this is on the monitor for you. Please include your name, property address, and telephone number. We have an upcoming joint meeting with the Island County Board of Commissioners. The Oak Harbor City Council and myself and members of city staff will hold a special joint meeting with the Island County Board of Commissioners on January 14th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Commissioners' Hearing Room in Coopville. The purpose of the joint meeting is to continue discussions regarding the Oak Harbor urban growth area as part of comprehensive planning. Pathways to Stability Task Force. I am initiating a task force to address homelessness in our community. This dedicated group will work to better understand the impacts on people experiencing homelessness in Oak Harbor and the available resources available in the greater Oak Harbor community. The Pathways to Stability Task Force represents a collaborative effort among city leaders, serving providers, and community advocates. We will work to review recommendations, identify actionable solutions that align with our shared vision for stability and support, and develop a strategic plan of action while at the same time ensuring a safe and vibrant community. Together, we can create pathways that lead to hope, resilience, and opportunity for everyone in Oak Harbor. The first meeting of the Pathways to Stability Task Force will be held on Wednesday, January 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. in City Hall Council Chambers. And cities will host action days in Lacey, February 19th and 20th. Includes updates on state legislative priorities, information panels, and an opportunity to meet with legislators about our city's legislative priorities at the state capitol in Olympia. Here are a few photos from last year's action days. Shout out to our school board because it is School Board Appreciation Month. January is School Board Appreciation Month. Please please consider taking a moment to thank those who serve on our area school boards for the important work they do in promoting the education of our youth. Leadership Whitby. It was my pleasure to speak to the newest class participating in Leadership Whitby. Each fall, Leadership Whitby selects 20 participants representing the private, public, and nonprofit sectors across Whidbey Island for a 7-month intensive leadership development program. The program's goal is to create a network of leaders whose increased awareness and commitment to service will energize and shape Whidbey Island's future. Councilmember Wittgenstein serves on the advisory group for this Leadership Whidbey, and I highly recommend considering applying for the program. Upcoming events. There are a number of upcoming events I will be attending. Please make sure to follow the city on social media for an up-to-date listing. This week, we are introducing a new opportunity to engage and to ask me questions over coffee with me, otherwise known as the Right Blend. The first one will be held at Mad Batter Bakehouse on January 17th at 10 a.m. Come say hello, give input, and ask questions. Thank you from the Oak Harbor Main Street Association. The city received a thank you from the Oak Harbor Main Street Association for the installation of the Serendipity Lane benches. The first bench was sponsored by Jim and Margaret Livermore, who are here with us tonight. The other 2 benches are available for sponsorship. Contact the Main Street Association for details. And thank you again, Margaret, for all of your hard work and your tenure as our Executive Director of Main Street. City office closure. City offices and facilities will be closed on Monday, January 20th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Garbage pickup for that day will move to the next day, Tuesday the 21st. With that, I will turn it over to council for their comments at this time. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to ask Mr. Schwab if I could get some of those stickers from you. Thank you. And also, it's about the time that we need to discuss our DC trip and who's going. I don't know if that is going to be on our next agenda or a workshop item. I haven't seen what's coming down the pike. So are we scheduled to discuss that soon, or do we need to make a motion and put it on the agenda?
You want to have her make a motion to put it on the agenda? I thought we were just going to include that to the workshop for them. It's on our radar for you guys to discuss.
Okay.
So can we just include that to the workshop agenda?
Yeah, we were adding it for council to discuss, and Julie was sending out an email, if she hasn't already, that highlights the upcoming events that council needs to be aware of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely on the radar then.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else for the good of the order? I can't see online. Are they all good? Okay. All right, well, hearing none, we're going to move on to ordinances and resolutions. We have 2 resolutions tonight. Resolution 2501, updates to boards and commissions procedures, planning commission bylaws, and Ordinance 2015, repealing Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 18.04, Planning Commission, and adopting a new Chapter 18.04, Planning Commission. And here to talk about both of those ordinances is our fabulous City Administrator, Sabrina Combs.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. So these are 2 items listed on the agenda, but I'm just combining them because they're both for the Planning Commission. So first, there's some background for you. There was a request by council to revise the interview process, and so we brought that to workshop to have some conversation about it on October 23rd. Then as we started looking through those changes, the city attorney identified some additional modifications that we might want to make. As we looked through those, we ended up doing some other adjustments. And so the plan to roll these out to other advisory boards will be coming up, but we did want to focus on the Planning Commission tonight because the Planning Commission group is working on the comprehensive plan. And so we wanted to get those numbers back up to the full group. So the ordinance revisions include remote attendance requirements and avoiding bias information. So the remote attendance requirement was an item that was added, and that was because, as we've experienced here, sometimes people think they're attending remotely, but we can't hear them or see them for the information they're providing. So we want to be very clear about how that process works. And then there's some additional information around bias. For the resolution and the bylaws, again, it's the same interview requirements and the remote attendance. And then we also added the modification of the dates due to our new council meetings where we moved the workshops from Wednesday to Tuesday because that does change their meeting schedule. So with the interview process, what we're going to do is have an operating procedure for our staff that will just standardize the fact that the mayor or designee that he appoints, potentially the ex officio, would do an interview. We have some standard interview questions that we presented during the workshop. And then in addition, what we're going to do is work with the staff liaisons to find out if there are any other questions that we might need to add based on new information we've learned from recent processes or commissioners or something like that. So we're just being flexible in that process. We're also adding an orientation process so that those individuals who are brought onto these boards have an opportunity to sit down with the staff and talk about what the expectations are, what the group includes, and make sure that they are going over all those information, including training requirements. So with that in mind, we have two motions up here on the screen for you. One is to approve the resolution to revise the bylaws for the Planning Commission. The other is to adopt the ordinance. So it's repealing the current code and then adopting a new one. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sabrina. So at this time, I will confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
Perfect. And are there any comments from those gathered here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make public comment on this issue before we move forward? All right, hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments at this time. Councilmember Stuckey.
Well, I'm glad to see going forward in this direction, especially with having an interview. I know that hasn't always happened. We're doing better, but Planning Commission is tough because it's been a revolving door. You know, it's tough to find people to serve on there. I feel like a lot of times when people get on there, they don't fully know what they're getting into. I mean, I've served on the Planning Commission. I believe Councilmember Marshall has served on the Planning Commission. Okay, we've all been there. But I think a lot of times you don't quite know what you're getting into, or you're getting in over your head. So having this to kind of help educate people and inform them is a step in the right direction. In talking with other people who have been on there who have left, another thing specifically to the Planning Commission is kind of the tangibility of it, not feeling like they're really making an impact. I mean, a lot of times we go over an item and their entire conversation is reduced to this went through the Planning Commission, there was no further comment, or this went through the Planning Commission, they're all for it. Has there been discussion on what sort of things we can do specifically to the Planning Commission, because the revolving door is so high, to help make them feel more involved? I know we've done some steps, but has there been some discussion specific to Planning Commission and how we can make their jobs a little more tangible and impactful?
So one of the things I've talked to Development Services Director David Kuhl about is when, in the past, when we've sometimes done presentations from the staff, we've said, we're going to present at the Planning Commission and then we're going to present at a workshop. And so what we're talking about doing and trying to be more proactive in is doing the first hour of the council workshop being with the Planning Commission in those instances, so that you all can hear from each other and then have that joint conversation before moving forward into a standard workshop. And so that is one way where we can, approach bringing together those conversations and topics so that you can hear those perspectives and opinions of the planning commissioners.
My only other question regarding that is, I'm looking under the purpose, and I don't know if this has changed from what it was before, it may be the same thing. To prepare city legislation that will implement the purpose of the comprehensive plan. Is it set up where if a planning commissioner had an idea or a thought, that they could bring that agenda to the meeting, or is it just review? Because I was in the impression it was mostly review, not them bringing things, like we can bring things up. Can they?
I'd have to ask Director Kuhl. I don't know of any specific instance where they, was he standing behind? Thank you.
I mean, they may not.
I didn't see him sneak in.
Could they?
Sorry.
Happy to pitch in here. Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey.
It's been, well, I was there.
You weren't there long, but thank you for participating. Yes, in the bylaws, we do say that commissioners have the ability to form a subcommittee to work on issues. One thing we had to coach some planning commissioners in the past, they wanted to run off and just start all these subcommittees. We said, no, wait, you need to go to the city council and get direction from council to start a subcommittee. So we've got a lot of active things we're doing right now. Downtown redevelopment, comprehensive plan, a new economic development study. These are places for planning commissioners to get involved. So if council wanted, you could certainly set up a subcommittee to study an issue. And that might help keep the planning commissioners more engaged in the process. Unfortunately, as you know, we changed and went to all items are just code changes and comp plan 5 years ago. And we went to a hearing examiner form of government that I'll talk about next. And the hearing examiner took away all the discretionary things that the planning commission used to work on. And that made it less interesting for some of the planning commissioners at that time. Fortunately, we have all new planning commissioners, and they seem quite engaged in doing the long-range planning that we do. So again, if you have ideas of things you'd like special studies to be done, we can sure do that.
Great. Thank you so much. Anything we can do to keep them engaged is always appreciated. So,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiesner has his hand raised.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and thanks much, Sabrina, for kind of getting this ball rolling. I think it's important for these commissions that not only do we give the respect due for these volunteers who want to step forward, but we give that same amount of respect in those appointments, right? And not throwing folks into positions they're not going to feel comfortable with, and certainly not throwing them in positions where they feel as though they're not, their time's not being used wisely, and they're not accomplishing anything. So I think this is a great step forward, and thanks much for taking it forward and making it happen. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, is there anyone else for the good of the order before I entertain a motion? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Stuckey for his comments. The question I had was not having served on, well, actually, no, that's incorrect. I did serve on the Youth Commission for a few years, but I'm curious about whether or not the changes that we're making from the perspective of someone on the commission would be helpful. And it sounds like that was mostly positive feedback from Councilor Stuckey. It would be nice to engage a little more with all of our boards and commissions. And I know that we've been making an effort, and I just want to reiterate my desire for us to make an effort to have a joint council and commission meeting. I would love us to get together with the park board or the art commission just once a year and have a joint meeting. And so I think getting some FaceTime and getting to know the people that are on our advisory committees would be really helpful. So anything we can do to personalize it and increase that interaction. I know that equals more work for staff. I understand that. So I'll trying to keep my expectations realistic. But I think the the orientation, especially for planning commission, is really fantastic, because just throwing somebody up here and expecting them to know what's happening is a lot to ask of anybody. So thank you for the consideration that you put into this ordinance. And if nobody else has anything, I'm happy to make the motion.
I was just going to make one comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. So would you like to see that joint meeting in conjunction with the schedule that's already been put out, or would you like there to be like a special meeting in a month, an additional meeting? That's
not necessarily an additional meeting, just as
Okay.
long as we get some FaceTime.
Okay.
At least once a year with each
Okay.
group. I would love to see that.
All right, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now I will entertain that motion.
I move to adopt resolution 25-01.
We have a motion as presented by Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, Councilmember Romero.
I second the motion.
Seconded by Councilmember Romero. Is there any further discussion on this issue before I call for a vote? Hearing none, hopefully seeing none over there on that board. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we have ordinance number 2015, repealing Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 1804, Planning Commission, and adopting a new Chapter 1804 Planning Commission. I would entertain a motion on that, or let discussion ensue, I guess, if it's needed.
Everybody's looking at me, so.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2015, repealing Oak Harbor Municipal Code Chapter 18.04 Planning Commission and adopting a new Chapter 18.04 Planning Commission, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
We have a motion as presented by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Romero.
I second the motion.
We have a second by Councilmember Romero. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Great. All right, moving right along to contracts and agreements. Thank you, Sabrina. We have extension of professional services agreement with Olbrechts and Associates, and here to introduce is our Development Services Corps Director, Mr. David Kuhl.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This, of course, is the contract extension for our hearing examiner. Phil Olbrecht is his name. He's been with us for a year now, and we're quite happy with the decisions and the work that he's doing. This would amend the professional services agreement for 1 year. We did a PSA and a researched MRSC a year ago, and 4 firms were out there that could do hearing examiner services. So we picked Mr. Olbrecht. He and I worked together in Woodinville many years ago, and he always did a good job there, so we were quite excited when he joined us. So we are ready to make a recommendation, and so this is the recommendation for you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhl. I will confirm with our city clerk, Ms. Julie Nestor, that we've received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
And then I would request upon any additional public comments from those gathered here this evening, if someone would like to step forward and make comment on this issue. All right, hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments at this time. Councilmember Stuckey.
No strong thoughts on the hearing examiner? Come on, folks. I move to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with Olbrechts and Associates, PLLC, to extend hearing examiner services for an additional year.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Stuckey, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Heisen. Before I call for a vote, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Then we have a professional services agreement with Oak Harbor Main Street Association for the 2025 Business and Occupation Tax Incentive Program. And here to introduce that topic this evening is our Grants Administrator, Wendy Horn.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to talk about the Oak Harbor Main Street Association Professional Services Agreement that relates directly to the presentation that Main Street did earlier this evening. As you may know, the Washington State implemented a Main Street tax credit incentive program back in 2005, and the purpose was to encourage cities to preserve historic downtown areas by contributing to eligible Main Street programs. So under the program, cities with less than 190,000 residents are eligible. Contributions are approved by the Department of Revenue. The maximum annual contribution to each Main Street Association is $213,333.33. Excuse me. And then each organization that contributes to that Main Street receives a tax credit of 75% of their contribution, with a maximum tax credit of being $160,000 per year. And then the program, it has a statewide cap of $5 million, which is where that odd $213,000 comes from for each of the Main Street associations. So about 10 years ago, the city began participating in the Main Street program. Under Resolution 1544, the city enters into an annual professional services agreement with the Oak Harbor Main Street Association. And this agreement includes scopes in terms of what we ask from Main Street. This year's professional service agreement is in your packet for your review. The last one was approved on November 5th, 2004. And this year's PSA is essentially the same, with the exception of the new director and some date changes. And again, we're recommending the same contribution amount of $95,000 this year. We've been providing $95,000 since 2019. This then in turn provides the city with a tax credit of $71,250. It also provides the opportunity for other organizations and businesses to contribute to the Main Street Association as well, and then they would get that 75% tax credit as well. And if for some reason the Main Street Association does receive more than the $118,000 of additional tax credit available, the city would then decrease our amount, but we haven't done that in the past. So with that, there is a recommended motion, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Wendy. I will confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
Great, thank you, Julie. And then I would request any additional public comments from those gathered here with us this evening. All right, hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments at this time. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. On the additional contributions of more than 113 or whatever, you said the city can decrease its contribution. Do we have to? Is that an automatic thing? If Main Street got a big donation from someone else, is our contribution automatically reduced, or is that just extra for them?
They can't exceed 200 and what was that amount? $213,000 in contributions for the tax credit. So if there was some windfall business out there that wanted to give them that much, we would then most likely need to decrease it, yes.
Okay, so it's capped, essentially.
Yes, it's capped.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
The state says that.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, Councilmember Romero.
I served on the Board of Directors for the Main Street, and gladly so, delighted to. But I no longer do, so I do not have a conflict of interest with regard to the recommended motion, and I would be honored to give the motion if the mayor elected to choose me to do so.
Sure, go ahead. Do we have more questions first? Okay, sorry, so 1 second.
Councilmember Wiesner has his hand raised.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Yeah, just quick comments. Love this program. Love what Main Street has done for our community downtown. As somebody who's been around for quite some time, and we see different aspirations, the Downtown Merchants Association and other things over the years. I love the Main Street program and love what this organization has been doing, and totally support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wiesner. Are there any other questions or comments before I turn it over to Councilmember Romero to make a motion? All right, Councilmember Romero.
Proudly, I move to approve the professional services agreement with the Oak Harbor Main Street Association as part of the Washington State Main Street Tax Credit Incentive Program.
Second.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Romero, seconded by Councilmember Wiesner. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Wendy, you're on deck the rest of the night, it looks like. So the next thing is professional services agreement with Oak Harbor. Oh, we just did that one. Sorry. Next is Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant application. Introducing that is Miss Wendy Horn.
So good evening again. Tonight we're going to talk about the Public Safety Foundation grant application. This is actually a grant application through the Firehouse Subs business. Most of you might be familiar with Firehouse Subs. They created a foundation, a public safety foundation, back in 2005 after the Hurricane Katrina, with the mission to impact the life-saving capabilities and the lives of local heroes and their communities. Their funding focus is life-saving equipment, prevention education, scholarships, disaster relief, and military veterans. The grant application requirements are that the department or organization requesting be within 60 miles of Firehouse Sub store. It is for first responders and public safety organizations. And there's generally speaking a $15,000 to $25,000 funding range. Their maximum is $45,000, but they generally are more favorable to a $15,000 to $25,000 range. So the Oak Harbor Fire Department would like to request funding for a highway vehicle stabilization kit, which includes an airlifting bag kit and struts as well. Often they're the first on the scenes, and these are tools that will safely stabilize a vehicle to assist in extrication efforts, as well as ongoing investigations when accidents occur. The grant opens the day after tomorrow on January 9th. They only allow 600 applications per quarter, so I'll be here bright and early on Thursday morning to make sure we're one of those 600. We are going to be requesting $23,000. There's no match required. And that is about it. I do have Chief Anderson here to answer the hard questions for you.
Thank you, Wendy. I will first confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
All right, and I will request any additional public comments from those gathered here with us this evening. Hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments at this time. Councilmember Stuckey.
Always going for grants that don't have a match. It's pretty hard to say no to that. I'm curious if Chief would indulge us. Can you describe an airlifting bag kit?
Yeah, so they're kind of what you think of. They're a big airbag. We use them to lift vehicles. All of our airbags expired. The newest one expired 6 years ago. So we've been using expired ones, and so that's the goal this year is to get replacement. Obviously, we'll go for a grant. If not, we'll have to try to find some funds in ours. But yeah, they'll lift up to a locomotive about 20 tons each airbag. So again, if a vehicle's upside down on its side, it's laying on top of a person, that's the safest way to lift it off someone.
Are they reusable or?
They are, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and they last about 15 years.
Okay.
So they're Kevlar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem.
Just quickly, I knew there wasn't one in town, and there was the distance thing, so I hopped on Google Maps. And for everybody's reference, the nearest firehouse subs is in Mount Vernon on College Way. I will be going to check them out. And there's also one at Smoky Point and at the Everett Mall. So there's a few nearby. We might have to work on getting one closer. But thank you very much, Wendy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else for the good of the order before I entertain a motion? Yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
I move to approve the submission of a Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant application for vehicle stabilization and airlifting bag equipment.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Stuckey.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Marshall. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously, and we'll move on to the next item for consideration. Washington Department of Commerce Justice Assistance Grant application, and here to talk about that is our infamous Miss Wendy Horn.
So our final discussion, and I do want to point out that while it appears that I've got all these things going on at the same time, these grants kind of come up randomly, and like this one that we're going to talk about right now, it was just posted within the last 4 or 5 weeks. So timelines, as I've mentioned before, the turnaround time is so short sometimes, so that's why I have so many of these today for you. That being said, the Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant Program is through the Washington State Department of Commerce. They are the ones that administer this grant program. It is a federal program. These are federal dollars that come to the state and then will come to us locally. The program itself, the Justice or JAG program, has 9 federal priority areas. Washington State has its own advisory board that looked at those 9 and chose 3 priority areas to focus on this year. Those areas are planning, evaluation, and technology improvement, crime victims programming, support and advocacy, community safety enhancement, and law enforcement programs. And you might be able to tell that we are going to be focusing on community safety enhancement and law enforcement programs, since it was highlighted. This category focuses on promoting relationship building between law enforcement and the community and increasing trust and increasing community trust and engagement. So the department plans on focusing on crime prevention through increased business support, increased video surveillance, and relationship building through the mayor's Pathways to Stability Task Force. The city's request is for $50,000 for surveillance equipment, $50,000 for a task force facilitator, and $175,000 for a feasibility study that will include data gathering, needs assessment, gaps analysis, researching best practices, and recommending alternatives to the task force for some of the issues that the task force is going to be addressing. So this is not in the budget, and there's no match required. And Chief is here to answer questions for you there.
Thank you, Wendy. So before I move on to council, I will confirm that we've received no public comment from our city clerk, Julie Nestor.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
Great, thank you very much. And I will request any additional public comments from those gathered here this evening. Hearing none, I will move forward and ask or call upon council for their questions or comments at this time. Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Wendy, can you go over what the amount would cover again, please?
Sure. So the idea is that it will support the Pathways to Stability Task Force through hiring a nonpartisan, neutral facilitator, and also hiring a consulting firm to do a feasibility study in terms of the different options that are out there, what services are needed, what's provided now, and then also $50,000 for camera and surveillance equipment. And the Chief Slowick can answer more.
So Chief is here also, but to help also give you some additional information around this topic, specifically to bridge what our current gap is in the community between Spin Cafe and the Haven, right? We're looking to have some long-term, long-range plan solution to address the homelessness issue that is Spin Cafe and what's going on in the middle of our downtown, and relocating that and where that will best be serviced within the community and how we can go about doing that.
Yeah, that all sounds great. I don't have any issue with that. I guess my only concern was with a facilitator. Is that a subcontracted position? Okay, so it's not going to become a city employee that we then have to fund long term.
No, it would be a consulting position.
Yes,
yeah.
we're not hiring another employee, no.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Anything else for, yes, Councilmember Morrow.
Broadly speaking, I support law enforcement because I believe that without consequences for criminal activities, and it's just going to degrade our community, so I firmly support this measure.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for the good of the order before I entertain a motion? Julie, they're good? Okay, great. All right, so I would entertain, yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the submission of a Washington State Department of Commerce Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant application.
So we have a motion as presented by Councilmember Marshall.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passage unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. So moving on to our 2023 audit results information. Sorry, I have a request to take a quick 5-minute break. So if we could, if we could come back at 6:45.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
said 6:45.
Oh, I did. All right, it's 6:45 now. We're back in session. We have reports and discussion items, and we have the 2023 audit results information session. Here to introduce this topic is our Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director, David Goldman, to present. This is a report only. No action from the council is needed.
Okay, good evening, everybody. David Goldman, Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director. The mic is on.
There we go.
The mic is on. Thank you. So I'm really big into transparency to the point where it can bore folks with the details, but I do like to explain things in a way to help everybody understand complex financial concepts. I mean, if you're interested in the excruciating details about the results of the 2023 audit, they're all in the staff report. But before I begin, I just want to emphasize that the 2023 audit relates to the year 2023. It has nothing to do with any budgetary or financial items in 2024 or today. And also, like all cities in the state of Washington, we're required to be audited by the Office of the Washington State Auditor. And they started the audit in October and ended in December. Our understanding is that they have to prioritize organizations that receive significant federal funds to be audited sooner in the year, because the deadline to complete the federal funds audit is September 30th of every year. So now for the results. This is going to go into a little bit more detail than some of you may have seen in the 4:30 presentation from the state auditor. So the city's overall financial condition improved in 2023 compared to the previous 2022. The city's assets exceeded its liabilities. Net position increased by $12 million. Between the beginning of the financial audit and the end of the audit, we restated the financials. We did that to correct the classifications of fund balances, the allocation of investments between funds. Let's keep in mind, though, even though the numbers move between the rows on the financial statement, the city's overall reported assets, liabilities, and net position, the three major areas of any government balance sheet, stayed the same. They were unchanged. Also, we looked at the data that was at the state auditor's website regarding what has occurred in 2024 for the 2023 audits, and we found that out of the 187 cities where we were able to get data through December 16th, 35% of them did have what they term as findings. So I have some charts which you can't read, but basically it's a comparison between, oh, this pointer doesn't work, does it? It's a comparison on the left between what we presented to the auditors in October, and the right is what we ended up publishing based on the collaboration between the Washington State Auditor's Office and our finance department. We highlighted in kind of orange there the areas that changed, but we did provide these big blue circles you'll see in the bottom there for assets, where it says there's a total column and then it shows total assets. Those numbers stayed exactly the same before and after. It's just the things in between tended to change. So here's a little bit more detail, but not too crazy detail. So for the fund balance classifications, the Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB, Statement 54 requires that fund balances for the general fund and other non-major governmental funds be classified between non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. We use a manual process to do this during the year-end clothing procedures, which, is a time-consuming process. And the original set of financials ended up not fully reclassifying the non-major governmental funds from the default in the system unassigned to either restricted or committed. So we corrected the financials and implemented new procedures to fix this going forward, and we'll be using our new ERP system to create the financial reports from 2025 onward. The next item was the allocation of the various investments. This is also part of the year-end closing procedures. The accounting system defaulted to using the wrong accounts to report investments that were related to the previously mentioned non-major governmental funds, which have some of those have restricted fund balance. In addition, the state auditor indicated that they'd like us to allocate out the investments to every fund, which is a major change to what we've been doing since even before I started here. So the original set of financials ended up allocating the investments line for some of the non-governmental funds to regular investments when it should have been restricted investments. So we corrected that. We implemented new procedures to fix that going forward, and we'll be using the new ERP system to publish the 2025 financials onward. We understand that some of the, like in the actual staff report in the backup, some of these charts didn't come through, so I provided them here in the presentation for you to take a look at. This is the assets on the balance sheet. This is basically the liabilities, the net position, and then we have these deferred inflows and outflows. The blue circles show that before and after, the overall totals did not change. It's just the numbers within the different areas did change. And also, we had some charts that didn't come through. I figured I'd just throw them on here for you to take a look at. The investment trend statewide. So this is every city in the state of Washington, like an aggregate total of all the different investments that every city has. And you can see that from 2022 to 2023, the amount of funds invested increased by over $2 billion for every city. And we followed suit with that. This is our investment trend. This is what we present quarterly to the investment committee, which Councilmember Stuckey is a member of. This is a trend going back to 2016. I'd like to point out that yellow line. That yellow line are our investments, and those investments increased based on the fact that the yields have increased dramatically, from the Treasury investments and also the federal government agency investments as well. That gray line is the local government investment pool with the state of Washington, and the blue line is just our primary bank account, which basically earns almost nothing. And that's just the trend that you see in most other cities in the state of Washington. I could give you some quick preliminary numbers for 2024. In 2023, we earned $2.7 million on our investments. Preliminarily, based on what we're seeing right now, we've earned $3.75 million of our investments based, of interest earnings on those investments. So that's about a 40% increase. But of course, it's way too soon to even report much about 2024. So anyway, that's all I really have. I mean, both issues that occurred which are really related to each other, those were fixed for the final audit. We updated our standard operating procedures, and we'll be updating our accounting system going forward, and we'll be providing increased training opportunities for staff to learn about new GASB statements and other opportunities with the state auditor as well. So with that, that's the presentation. So.
Thank you, David. So before I call on council for their questions or comments of you, just to reiterate what you had said, the manual process that was being used by you all is being replaced with the new ERP financial management system that we're implementing, correct?
Yeah, it'll take about a year to implement all those changes. So I think in 2024 we're still going to be on the manual, but we have We have updated our standard operating procedures and updated our manuals to make sure that we understand these new items that the state auditor wants us to process.
No, absolutely.
But we're definitely going to be programming that in for 2025 and beyond.
Absolutely. I was just trying to highlight the fact, though, that you have a new system that's coming online that is going to help to make sure that this process isn't as cumbersome on you all. So, all right, with that, I will turn it over to council for their questions or comments at this time. Councilmember Stuckey.
Just give you a chance to brag a little bit here. How much had the investments made?
Well, in 2023, it was $2.7 million, and it went up about 40% to $3.75 million. And that does not include the money that we're earning on the fire bonds. The interest that we're earning on the fire bond, about 70 to 75% of it, we can utilize, for that project. The rest of it is we have to hold back for the arbitrage section of the IRS code.
And that's wonderful work. I mean, people are very critical of government overspending, not being good or wise with resources, which is a fair criticism from time to time. But the fact that I don't think a lot of people think of municipalities investing their money, making money on the investments, I think that's just wonderful. So good job.
Yep. I mean, whatever we can do to, ensure that we don't have to increase taxes or increase other revenue streams to continue to have the city operate the way it is always a good thing.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Anybody else for the good of the order? All right, hearing nothing, seeing nothing. Thank you very much again, David, for your presentation. At this time, the council will take a short break and then move into an executive session per RCW 4230-110-1B to consider the selection of a site of the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase as pertains to the price. The anticipated duration of the executive session is 15 minutes. The city clerk will announce any extensions. Executive sessions are not open to the public. Action may or may not be taken upon return to the open session of the meeting. It is 6:57.
You killed it.
started fine January 1st. When I went
The council has announced an extension of the executive session for an additional 10 minutes to 7:22 p.m. The council has announced an additional extension of the executive session to 7:27 p.m.
So hopefully still for a couple months of 26.
Whitby has 6 accountants part-time.
The council has announced an additional extension to the executive session of 5 additional minutes. The council will come out of executive session at 7:32.
You know, just money. I sat down with them and said, okay, here's the type of calls, and I had our doctor with us and said, hey.
The council has announced an additional extension of the executive session for 2 more minutes to 7:34.
Here's the national standard.
The
acoustics are not great. You have to pay very keen attention.
It is 7:34 p.m. and we are out of executive session. There will be no action taken at this time. With there being no further business, I would entertain a motion for us to adjourn. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, I'm so sorry. For the good of the order, I meant to ask this during council comments and I missed it, so I apologize. The school levy, I would support us having some kind of proclamation or declaration in support of the school levy officially. I don't know if that is something that's on a future agenda, if that's something that the rest of the council would be interested in officially doing. Just throwing it out there.
All right,
Mayor Pro Tem's view of that we could put some sort of public support, even though it's not an official action.
Okay. Councilmember Stuckey.
I think just any council member speaking positively is official support. I don't particularly like the idea of the city endorsing other bonds and levies or vice versa. I like the idea of sitting us on our own merit. I mean, I'm happy to put a sign up. I have voted yes for it every year, and I will continue to do so. But I would like to see the city get away from endorsing bonds and levies for other organizations, if possible. But that is one opinion.
That's why there are 7 of you. Anybody else for the good of the order on that before we move forward to adjourn? All right, if there is no further, we can talk about that more offline. So there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand.